Hello, hi. Is the audio good? Is the audio good? I wonder. Hello. So hi everyone. My name is Biskri. I am a primordial soup being. I'm a Filipino. I'm an artist, and I made and rigged my own model. My pronouns are they them, and I stream at 10 a.m. USC or 10 p.m. GMT plus 8. I hope that the audio is all good. If there's any problems with the audio, like please do tell me. Um, Full transparency. This is mm, my basically first ever, practically first ever ASMR stream. So, um, I hope that you'll be able to take care of me today. Okay. So I hope everybody's doing well. And thank you for the spine check and the hydrate. And how about let's get on with it, shall we? Let's start off with like something short and simple, okay? And just a reminder, the fanfic that I wrote will be read at 11 a.m. EST. So there will be like around 45 minutes before that happens. For now, let's relax a little bit before I embarrass myself. Capiche? Capiche. Okay, darlings. Let's start off with Aesop. Yeah, an Aesop's fable. The Frog and the Ox. An ox came down to a reedy pool to drink. As he splashed heavily into the water, he crushed a young frog into the mud. The old frog soon missed the little one and asked his brothers and sisters what had become of him. A great big monster, said one of them, stepped on the little brother with one of its huge feet. Big was he, said the old frog, puffing herself up. Was he as big as this? Oh, much bigger, they cried. The frog puffed up still more. He could not have been bigger than this, she said, but the little frogs all declared that the monster was much, much bigger, and the old frog kept puffing herself out more and more, until, all at once, she burst. Do not attempt the impossible. That's kind of screwed up for a first, for a first one, right? Okay, another one. So, the next one that we have, the next one that we have is Belling the Cat. The mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, the cat. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have some time to run away. Indeed, something had to be done, for they lived in such constant fear of her claws that they hardly dare stir from their dens by night or day. Many plans were discussed, but none of them was thought good enough. At last, a very young mouse got up and said, I have a plan. That seems very simple, but I know it will be successful. All we have to do is to hang a bell about the cat's neck. When we hear the bell ringing, we will know immediately that our enemy is coming. All the mice were much surprised that they had not thought of such a plan before, but in the midst of the rejoicing over their good fortune, an old mouse arose and said, I will say that the plan of the young mouse is very good, but let me ask one question. Who will bell the cat? They say that the moral of this one, it is one thing to say that something should be done, but quite different matter to do it. This is a classic, doesn't it? This one I've heard of. The other one I haven't. And how am I doing tonight? Honestly, I'm a bit more nervous. But I hope that my nerves don't reach you guys that much cuz I want you guys to be relaxed, you know? Okay. Next one. Very cozy. Love to see it. And the next one we have the town mouse and the country mouse. Yes. There you go. A town mouse once visited a relative who lived in the country. For lunch, the country mouse served wheat, stalks, roots, and acorns, with a dash of cold water for drink. The town mouse ate very sparingly, nibbling at little of this and a little of that, and by her manner making it very plain that she ate the simple food only to be polite. After the meal, the friend had a long talk, or rather, the mouse talked about her life in the city, while the country mouse listened. Then they went to the bed in a cozy nest in the hedgerow and slept in quiet and comfort until morning. In her sleep, the country mouse dreamed that she was a town mouse with all the luxuries and delights of the city life that her friend had described for her. So, the next day, when the town mouse asked the country mouse to go home with her to the city, she gladly said yes. When they reached the mansion in which the town mouse lived, they found on the table in the dining room the livings of a very fine banquet. There were sweetmeats and jellies, pastries, delicious cheeses, indeed, the most tempting foods that a mouse can imagine. But just as the country mouse was about to nibble a dainty bit of pastry, she heard a cat mew loudly and scratch at the door. In great fear, the mice scurried to a hiding place, where they lay quiet, still for a long time, hardly daring to breathe. When at last they ventured back to the feast, the door opened suddenly, and in came the servants to clear the table, followed by the house dog. The country mouse stopped in the town mouse's den only long enough to pick up her carpet bag and umbrella. "You may have luxuries and dainties that I have not," she said as she hurried away, "but I prefer my plain food and simple life in the country, with the peace and security that go with it. Poverty with security is better plenty than in the midst of fear and uncertainty." Yeah. I remember this story too. I wonder if you guys recognize these. Do you recognize these? I wonder. Let's see. Maybe I'll continue reading more Aesop's fables. Mm-hmm. Or maybe one more Aesop fable and then we'll head over to The Little Mermaid. How does that sound? Okay. Thank you for the head pats, darling. The Fox and the Grapes. A fox one day spied a beautiful bunch of ripe grapes hanging from a vine trained along the branches of a tree. The grapes seemed ready to burst with juice, and the fox's mouth watered as he gazed longingly at them. The bunch hung from a high branch, and the fox had to jump for it. The first time he jumped, he missed it by a long way, so he walked off a short distance and took a running leap at it, only to fall short once more. Again and again he tried, but in vain. Now he sat down and looked at the grapes in disgust. "What a fool I am," he said. "Here I am wearing myself out to get a bunch of sour grapes that are not worth gaping for." And off he walked very, very scornfully. There are many who pretend to despise and belittle that which is beyond their reach. And thank you for the hug, Crasher. Cute. Mwah. Okay, this one's gonna be a longer story, okay? So, if you guys have any redeems, I'll do it after. Okay. The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen, 1836. Oh, the text is so small. I need to zoom in. Yeah, chat. I have so many eyes, but I can't read such small text. Okay. Far out in the ocean, where the water is as blue as the prettiest cornflower and as clear as crystal, it is very, very deep. So deep indeed that no cable could fathom it. Many church steeples, piled one upon another, would not reach for the ground beneath to the surface of the water above. There dwelled the Sea King and his subjects. We must not imagine that there is nothing at the bottom of the sea but bare yellow sand. No, Indeed, the most singular flowers and plants glow there, the leaves and stems of which are so pliant that the slightest agitation of the water causes them to stir as if they had life. Fishes, both large and small, glide between the branches, as birds fly among the trees here upon land. In the deepest spot of all stands the castle of the Sea King. Its walls are built of coral, and the long Gothic windows are of the clearest amber. The roof is formed of shells that open and close as the water flows over them. Their appearance is very beautiful, for in each lies a glittering pearl which would be fit for the diadem of a queen. The Sea King had been a widower for many years, and his aged mother kept house for him. She was a very wise woman and exceedingly proud of her high birth. On that account she wore 12 oysters on her tail, while others, also of high rank, were only allowed to wear 6. She was, however, deserving of very great praise, especially for her care of the little sea. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, where was I? Sorry. And yes, I do have my alerts on, but they're supposed to be very, very low. Very. So, yeah. Where was I? She was, however, deserving of very great praise, especially for her care of the little sea princess. Her granddaughters. They were 6 beautiful children, but the youngest was the prettiest of them all. Her skin was as clear and delicate as a rose leaf, and her eyes as blue as the deepest sea. But like all the others, she had no feet, and her body ended in a fishtail. All day long they played in the great halls of the castle, or among the living flowers that grew out of the walls. The large amber windows were open, and the fish swam in, just as the swallows fly into the houses when we open the windows, excepting that the fish swam up to the princess, ate out of their hands, and allowed themselves to be stroked. Outside the castle there was a beautiful garden in which grew bright red and dark blue flowers, and blossoms like flames of fire. The fruit glittered like gold, and the leaves and stems waved to and fro continually. The earth itself was the finest sand, but blue as the flames of burning sulphur. Over everything lay a peculiar blue radiance, as if it were surrounded by the air from above, through which the blue sky shone instead of the dark depths of the sea. In calm weather, the sun could be seen looking like a purple flower, with the lights streaming from the calyx. Each of the young princesses had a little plot of ground in the garden where she might dig and plant as she pleased. One arranged her flower bed into the form of a whale. Another thought it be better to make hers like the figure of a little mermaid, but that of the youngest was round like the sun, and contained flowers as red as his rays as sunset. She was a strange child, quiet and thoughtful, and while her sisters would be delighted with the wonderful things which they obtained from the wrecks of vessels, she cared for nothing but her pretty red flowers. Like the sun, excepting a beautiful marble statue, it was the representation of a handsome boy carved out of pure white stone, which had fallen to the bottom of the sea from a wreck. She planted by the statue a rose colored weeping willow. It grew splendidly, and very soon hung its fresh branches over the statue, almost down to the blue sands. The shadows had a tint and waved to and fro like the branches. It seemed as if the night it seemed as if the crown of the tree and the root were at play. And trying to kiss each other. Nothing gave her so much pleasure as to hear about the world above the sea. She made her old grandmother tell her all she knew of the ships and the towns, the people and the animals. To her it seemed most wonderful and beautiful to hear that the flowers of the land should have fragrance and not those below the sea, that the trees of the forest should be green, and that the fishes amongst the trees could go sing so sweetly that it was quite a pleasure to hear them. Her grandmother called the little birds fishes, or she would not have understood her, for she had never seen birds. When you have reached your 15th year, said the grandmother, you will have permission to rise up out of the sea, to sit on the rocks in the moonlight while the great ships are sailing by, and then you will see both forests and towns. In the following year, one of the sisters would be 15, but as each was a year younger than the other, the youngest would have to wait 5 years before her turn came to rise up from the bottom of the ocean and see the earth as we do. However, each promised to tell the others what she saw on her first visit and what she thought the most beautiful, for their grandmother could not tell them enough. There were so many things on which they wanted information. None of them longed so much for her return to come as the youngest. She was she who had the longest time to wait, and who was so quiet and thoughtful. Many nights she stood by the open window, looking up through the dark blue water and watching the fish as they splashed about with their fins and tails. She could see the moon and stars shining faintly, but through the water they looked larger than they do to our eyes. When something like a black cloud passes between her and them, she knew that it was either a whale swimming over her head or a ship full of human beings who were never imagined that a pretty little mermaid was standing beneath them, holding out her white hand towards the keel of their ship. As soon as the eldest was 15, she was allowed to rise to the surface of the ocean. When she came back, she had hundreds of things to talk about. But the most beautiful, she said, was to lie in the moonlight on a sandbank in the quiet sea near the coast, and to gaze on a large town nearby where the lights are twinkling like hundreds of stars, to listen to the sounds of the music, the noise of the carriages, and the voices of humans being, and then to hear the merry bells peal out from the church steeples, and because she could not go near to all those wonderful things, she longed for them more than ever. Oh, did not the younger sister listen eagerly to all these descriptions? And afterwards, when she stood at the open window, looking up through the dark blue water, she thought of the great city, with all its bustle and noise, and even fancied she could hear the sound of the church bells down in the depths of the sea. In another year, the second sister received permission to rise to the surface of the water and to swim about where she pleased. She rose just as the sun was setting, and this, she said, was the most beautiful sight of all. The whole sky looked like gold, while violet and rose-colored clouds, which she could not describe, floated over her, and still more rapidly than the clouds flew a large flock of wild swans towards the setting sun, looking like a white veil across the sea. She also swam towards the sun, but it sunk into the waves, and the rosy tints faded from the clouds and from the sea. The third sister f- followed. She was the boldest of them all, and she swam up to a broad river that emptied itself into the sea. On the banks she saw green hills covered with beautiful vines. Palaces and castles peeped out from amid the proud trees of the forest. She heard the birds singing, and the rays of the sun were so powerful that she was obliged often to dive down under the water to cool her burning face. In a narrow creek she found a whole troop of little human children, quite naked and sporting about in the water. She wanted to play with them, but they fled in a great fright, and the little black animal came to the water. It was a dog, but she did not know of that, for she had never before seen one. This animal barked at her so terribly that she became frightened and rushed back to the open sea. But she said she should never forget the beautiful forest, the green hills, and the pretty little children who could swim in the water, although they had not fishes' tails. The fourth sister was more timid. She remained in the midst of the sea, but she said it was quite as beautiful there as nearer the land. She could see for so many miles around her, and the sky above looked like a bell of glass. She had seen the ships, but at such great distance that they looked like seagulls. The dolphins sported in the waves, and the great whales spouted water from their nostrils till it seemed as if hundreds fountains were playing in every direction. The fifth sister's birthday occurred in winter. So when her turn came, she saw what others had not seen the first time they went up. The sea looked quite green, and large icebergs were floating about, each like a pearl, she said, but larger and loftier than the churches built by men. They were of the most singular shapes, and glittered like diamonds. She had seated herself upon one of the largest, and let the wind play with her long hair, and she remarked that all the ships sailed by rapidly, and steered as far away as they could from the iceberg, as if they were afraid of it. Towards evening, as the sun went down, dark clouds covered the sky. The thunder rolled, and the lightning flashed, and the red light glowed on the icebergs as they rocked and tossed on the heaving sea. On all the ships the sails were reefed with fear and trembling, while she sat calmly on the floating icebergs, watching the blue lightning as it darted its forked flashes into the sea. When first the sisters had permission to rise to the surface, they were each delighted with new and beautiful sights they saw. But now, as grown ups, they could go when they pleased, and they had become indifferent about it. They wished themselves back again in the water, and after a month had passed, they said it was much more beautiful down below, and pleasanter to be at home. Yet often in the evening hours, the five sisters would twine their arms around each other and rise to the surface in a row. They had more beautiful voices than any human being could have, and before the approach of a storm, and when they expected a ship would be lost, they swam before the vessel and sang sweetly of the delights of to be found in the depths of the sea, and begging the sailors to not fear if they sank to the bottom. But the sailors could not understand the song. They took it for the howling of the storm, and these things were never to be beautiful for them. For if the ship sank, the men were drowned, and their dead bodies alone reached the palace of the Sea King. When the sisters rose, arm in arm, through the water in this way, their youngest sister would stand quite alone, looking after them, ready to cry, only that the mermaids have no tears, and therefore they suffer more. "Oh, were I but 15 years old," she said, "I know that I shall love the world up there, and all the people who live in it." At last she reached her 15th year. "Well, now you are grown up," said the dowager, her grandmother, "so You must let me adorn you like your sisters." And she placed a wreath of white lilies in her hair, and every flower leaf was a half a pearl. Then the old lady ordered 8 great oysters to attach themselves to the tail of the princess to show her high rank. "But they hurt me so," said the little mermaid. "Pride must suffer pain," replied the old lady. Oh, how she would have shaken off all this grandeur and laid aside the heavy wreath. The red flowers in her garden would have suited her much better, but she could not help herself. So she said, "Farewell," and rose as lightly as a bubble to the surface of the water. The sun had just set as she raised her head above the waves, but the clouds were tinted with crimson and gold, and through the glimmering twilight beamed the evening star in all its beauty. The sea was calm and the air mild and fresh. A large ship with 3 masts lay becalmed on the water with only one sail set, for not a breeze stiffened, and the sailors sat idle on the deck or amongst the rigging. There was music and song on board, and as darkness came on 100 colored lanterns were lighted, as if the flags of all nations waved in the air. The little mermaid swam close to the cabin windows, and now and then, as the waves lifted her up, she could look in through clear glass window panes and see a number of well-dressed people within. Among them was a young prince, the most beautiful of all, with large black eyes. He was 16 years of age, and his birthday was being kept with much rejoicing. The sailors were dancing on deck, but when the prince came out of the cabin, more than 100 rockets rose in the air, making it bright as day. The little mermaid was so startled that she dived under water, and when she again stretched out her head, it appeared as if all the stars of heaven were falling around her. She had never seen such fireworks before. Great suns spurted fire about, splendid fireflies flew up into the blue air, and everything was reflected in the clear, calm sea beneath. The ship itself was so brightly illuminated that all the people, and even the smallest rope, could be distinctly and plainly seen. And how handsome the young prince looked as he pressed the hands of all present and smiled at them, while the music resounded through the clean night air. It was very late, yet the little mermaid could not take her eyes from the ship or from the beautiful prince. The colored lanterns had been extinguished, no more rockets rose in the air, and the cannon had ceased firing. But the sea became restless, and moaning, grumbling sound could be heard beneath the waves. Still the little mermaid remained by the cabin window, rocking up and down on the water, which enabled her to look in. After a while the sails were quickly unfurled, and the noble ship continued her passage. But soon the waves rose higher, heavy clouds darkened the sky, and lightning appeared in the distance. A dreadful storm was approaching. Once more the sails were reefed, and the great ship pursued her flying course over the raging sea. The waves rose mountains high, as if they would have overtopped the masts, but the ship dived like a swan beneath them, and then rose again on their lofty foaming crest. To the little mermaid this appeared pleasant sport, not so to the sailors. At length the ship groaned and creaked. The thick planks gave way under the lashing of the sea as it broke over deck. The mainmast snapped astern like a reed. The ship lay over her side, and the water rushed in. The little mermaid now perceived that the crew were in danger, and even she suffered. And even she herself was obliged to be careful to avoid the beams and planks of the wreck which lay scattered on the water. At one moment it was so pitch dark that she could not see a single object, but a flash of lightning revealed the whole scene. She could see everyone who had been on the boards, excepting the prince. When the ship parted, she had seen him sink into the deep waves, and she was glad, for she thought he would now be with her. And then she remembered that human beings could not live in the water, so that when he got down to her father's palace, he would be quite dead. But he must not die. So she swam about among the beams and planks which strewed the surface of the sea, forgetting that they could crush her to pieces. Then she dived deeply under the dark waters, rising and falling with the waves, till at length she managed to reach the young prince, who was fast losing the power of swimming in that stormy sea. His limbs were failing him, his beautiful eyes were closed, and he would have died had not the little mermaid come to his assistance. She held his head above the water and let the waves drift them where they would. In the morning, the storm had ceased, but off the ship not a single fragment could be seen. The sun rose up, red and glowing from the water, and its beams brought back the hue of health to the prince's cheeks, but his eyes remained closed. The mermaid kissed his high, smooth forehead and stroked back his wet hair. He seemed to like the marble statue in her little garden, and she kissed him again and wished that he might live. Presently they came in the sight of land. She saw lofty blue mountains on which the white snow rested, as if a flock of swans were lying upon them. Near the coast were beautiful green forests, and close by stood a large building, whether a church or a convent she could not tell. Orange and citrus trees grew in the garden, and before the door stood lofty palms. The sea here formed a little bay in which the water was quite still, but very deep, so she had swam with the handsome prince to the beach, which was covered with fine white sand, and there she laid him in the warm sunshine, taking care to raise his head higher than his body. Then bells sounded in the large white building, and a number of young girls came into the garden. The little mermaid swam out farther from the shore and placed herself between some high rocks that rose out of the water. Then she covered her head and neck with the foam of the sea, so her little face might not be seen, and watched to see what would become of the poor prince. She did not wait long before she saw a young girl approach the spot where he lay. She seemed frightened at first, but only for a moment. Then she fetched a number of people, and the mermaid saw that the prince came to life again, and she smiled upon those who stood round him. But to her he sent no smile. He knew not that she had saved him. This made her very unhappy, and when he was led away into the great building, she dived down sorrowfully into the water and returned to her father's castle. She had always been silent and thoughtful, and now more so than ever. Her sister asked her what she had seen during the first visit to the surface of the water, but she would tell them nothing. Many an evening and morning did she rise to the place where she had left the prince. She saw the fruits in the garden ripen till they were gathered, the snow on the tops of the mountains melt away, but she never saw the prince, and therefore she returned home, always more sorrowful than before. It was her only comfort to sit in her own little garden and fling her arm around the beautiful marble statue which was like the prince. But she gave up tending her flowers, and they grew in wild confusion over the paths, twining their long leaves and stems round the branches of the trees, so that the whole place became dark and gloomy. At length she could bear it no longer, and told one of her sisters all about it. Then the others heard the secret, and very soon it became known to two mermaids whose intimate friend happened to know who the prince was. She had also seen the festival on board ship, and she told them where the prince came from and where his palace stood. "Come, little sister," said the other princesses. They entwined their arms and rose up in a long row to the surface of the water, close by the spot where they knew the prince's palace stood. It was built of bright yellow shining stone, with long flights of marble steps, one of which reached quite down the sea. Splendid gilded cupolas rose over the roof, and between the pillars that surround the whole building stood lifelike statues of marbles. Through the clear crystal of the lofty windows could be seen noble rooms with costly silk curtains and hangings of tapestry, while the walls were covered with beautiful paintings, which were a pleasure to look at. In the center of the largest saloon, a fountain threw its sparkling jets high up into the glass cupola of the ceiling, through which the sun shone down upon the water and upon the beautiful plants growing around the basin of the fountain. Now that she knew where he lived, she spent many an evening and many a night on the water near the palace. She would swim much nearer the shore than any of the others ventured to do. Indeed, once she went quite up the narrow channel under that marble balcony, which threw a broad shadow on the water. Here she would sit and watch the young prince, who thought himself quite alone in the bright moonlight. She saw him many times of an evening sailing in a pleasant boat, with the music playing and flags waving. She peeped out from among the green rushes, and if the wind caught her long silvery white veil, those who saw it believed it to be a swan, spreading out its wings. On many a night, too, when the fishermen, with their torches, were out at sea, she heard them relate to so many good things about the doings of the young prince that she was glad she saved his life when he had been tossed and about half dead on the waves. And she remembered that his head had rested on her bosom, and how heartily she had kissed him. But he knew nothing of all this, and could not even dream of her. She grew more and more fond of human beings, and wished more and more to be able to wander about with those whose world seemed to be so much larger than her own. They could fly over the sea in ships, and mount the high hills which were far above the clouds. In the lands they possessed, their woods and their fields stretched far away beyond the reach of her sight. There was so much that she wished to know, and her sisters were unable to answer all her questions. Then she applied to her old grandmother, who knew all about the upper world, which she had very rightly called the lands above the sea. If human beings are not drowned, asked the little mermaid, can they live forever? Do they never die as we do here in the sea? Yes, replied the old lady, they must also die, and their term of life is even shorter than ours. We sometimes live to 300 years, but when we cease to exist, here we only become the foam on the surface of the water, and we have not even a grave down here of those we love. We have not immortal souls. We shall never live again. But like the green seaweed, when once it has been cut off, we can never flourish more. Human beings, on the contrary, have a soul which lives forever, lives after the body has turned to dust. It rises up through the clear, pure air beyond the glittering stars. As we rise out of the water and behold all the land of the earth, so do they rise to unknown and glorious regions which we shall never see. Why have not we an immortal soul? Asked the little mermaid mournfully. I would give gladly all the hundreds of years that I have to live to be a human being only for one day, and to have the hope of knowing the happiness of that glorious world above the stars. You must not think of that, said the old woman. We feel ourselves to be much happier and much better off than human beings. So I shall die, said the little mermaid, and as the foam of the sea I shall be driven about, never again to hear the music of the waves, or to see the pretty flowers, nor the red sun. Is there anything I can do to win an immortal soul? No, said the old woman. unless a man were to love you so much that you were more to him than his father or mother, and if all his thoughts and all his love were fixed upon you, and the priest placed his right hand in yours, and he promised to be true to you here and hereafter, then his soul would glide into your body, and you would obtain a share in the future happiness of mankind. He would give a soul to you and retain his own as well. But this can never happen. Your fish's tail, which amongst us is considered so beautiful, is thought on earth to be quite ugly. They do not know any better, and they think it is necessary to have two stout props, which they called legs, in order to be handsome. Then the little mermaid sighed and looked sorrowfully at her fish's tail. Let us be happy, said the old lady, and dart and spring about during the 300 years that we have to live, which is really quite long enough after that we can rest ourselves and all the better. This evening we are going to have a court ball. Also, heads up, chat. In 3 minutes, actually, after I finish this next paragraph of The Little Mermaid, I am going to be reading my. I'm gonna put a pause in The Little Mermaid, and I'm going to be reading my own fan fiction. Sorry, Hans Christian Andersen. Pause. We have priorities. What priorities, you may ask? Yume fan fiction. Okay, I'll take this moment to hydrate and spine check too. Thank you so much. And hi, Karna. Chat, please say hi to Karna. And hi, Rockman. Hi, Penny. Thank you for the resub, Penny. What's 9 plus 10? Yes, me with ASMR. Want to do it to start. but you uh, but you distracted me. Okay, sure. I had the alerts really low because some people might be sleeping. I don't want to wake them up. Coincidence? What do you mean, isn't that a coincidence? Okay. Oh yeah, I didn't want to interrupt. This is a better time for a resub. Don't worry, the alerts are very, very low. Thank you so much. Thank you for the resub. Okay. Last paragraph, and then last paragraph, and then we read the fanfic. It is one of those splendid sights which we can never see on earth. The walls and the ceilings of the large ballroom were of thick but transparent crystal, made hundreds of colossal shells, some of a deep red, others of a grass green, stood on each side in rows with blue fire in them, which lighted up the whole saloon, and shone through the walls so that the sea was also illuminated. Innumerable fishes, great and small, swam past the crystal walls. On some of them the scales glowed with a purple brilliancy, and on others they shone like silver and gold. Through the halls flowed a broad stream, and in it danced the mermen and the mermaids to the music of their own sweet singing. No one on earth has such a lovely voice as theirs. The little mermaid sang more sweetly than them all. The whole court applauded her with hands and tails, and for a moment her heart felt quite gay, for she knew she had the loveliest voice of any on earth or in the sea. But she soon thought again of the world above her, for she could not forget the charming prince, nor her sorrow that she had not an immortal soul like his. Therefore she crept away silently out of her father's palace, and while everything was within was gladness and song, she sat in her own little garden, sorrowful and alone. Then she heard the bugle sounding through the water and thought, he is certainly sailing above. He on whom my wishes depend, and in whose hands I should like to place the happiness of my life. I will venture all for him, and to win an immortal soul. While my sisters are dancing in my father's palace, I will go to the sea witch, of whom I have always been so much afraid, but she can give me counsel and help. And that sounds like a perfect time to put a pause on The Little Mermaid, doesn't it? Okay, let me pull up the fan fiction. I have so many thoughts about this original mermaid. It's my first time reading it actually, and the gay metaphors in this, they were not lying. They were not lying, especially with the whole immortal soul thingy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is such a this is such a trans allegory for sure, for sure. Hans Christian Andersen, mayhaps you were also. Mm-hmm. I think I've read a shorter version of it, but I've also read about it. Yeah. Gay. So yeah, she felt quite gay because she was the best singer. Oh, I bet she did. Okay. Okay. I'm reading my own fanfic right now. There you go. Apparently, it has a couple of different endings. We'll find out which one I'm reading right now at the end. So, bam, it's posted. Chat. There you go. It's posted. It's posted. I have two fan fictions actually. One written by me and one written by my friend. I'm reading them chronologically. Okay. Okay. Okay, okay. I know this is like an ASMR stream, so I should be like way more like chill and stuff. But uh, should okay, so I wrote this myself. It's a Yume fanfic. Only three other people have seen it before. Four people have seen it beforehand. Like it was Momo, it was Kay, Goldie, and Connie. Those are the four people who have seen it before. So now stream is finally going to see it. I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of you guys now. Okay. So the title is Kiss Me. So summary. Biscuit always takes initiative, no matter if it's giving affection or asking for affection. But when was the last time Mitsuki kissed them without being prompted to? Two lovers and one coral lipstick. Are they going to kiss me? They both thought. A bated breath passes. Why aren't they kissing me? They both thought. And yeah, Yuma fanfic is a self-insert thingy. Yep, self-insert for sure. This is Izumi Mitsuki. If only somebody were to summon my husband right now. We could really use a husband right now. I wonder, is he here? Oh no, he's not there. The husband summoning isn't available. Wild. Did I forget? Did I forget to turn on the husband summon? Oh well, I'm summoning him. Husband, 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 husband. Where's my husband? There you go. So big. Fuck. Why is he here? No. Actually, no. You're sitting on my lap, darling. Yeah, you're sitting on my lap. Okay. Hi, Momorin. Chat, we're gonna read the other fanfic that Momorin wrote for me after this one. Okay. So, say this. Izumi, no! You're so evil! You're so evil! You're so evil! Okay, I'll say that. I'll say that, but only because you asked me to, okay? Rockman has forced me to say Izumi Mitsuki. I mean, have you seen his cards? Bandai Namco. Bandai Namco hates my husband so much. Okay? Okay, Bandai Namco hates my husband so much. They keep making mid cards of him. I haven't logged on in the app for like 3 years because his cards have been so ass. Don't wow me, Rockman. Don't pog me. Pride pog? No, no, no. That was homophobic of me. to do to say my own husband is mid. Okay. Yeah, I'm preparing. Okay, so here is the dramatic reading of Kiss Me, written by yours truly. Splash! Cold water runs through Biscree's hands as they wash their cooking utensils. Biscree's singing trails off to a stop upon forgetting the lyrics of some Annie song, and silence hangs in the air. Their mind starts to wander as they reach the last of the dishes. I wonder if Mitski thinks I'm too much. They rinse the cutting board. Mm, when was the last time he kissed me all on his own again? They put the cutting board on the rack. A sigh escapes them. I I guess it's my fault. Biscree steps away from the sink to dry their hands with a towel. Since I get so excited, not many chances for him to initiate. If Biscree spent a bit too long drying their hands, that was between them and the kitchen towel. Biscree was the only one in the common room right now. Idler Seven's members are all scattered to the wind. Some have the day off, some have work. Mitski has work, and wouldn't be returning until late night. I'm home, Mitski announces as he enters the common room. His ginger hair was a bit tousled, possibly from being under a hat, but Biscree could tell it was styled. As Mitski shed his mask and glasses, Biscree's eyes glued on the subtle makeup that made their pretty boyfriend even prettier. Was that coral lipstick? It was definitely coral lipstick. Maybe it faded a bit from eating? It's honestly unfair for someone to be cute, pretty, and handsome all at the same time. It should be a crime for Mitsuki to not be Japan's number one desired embrace. He wasn't even on the list. What a sham! The subtle makeup only enhanced his pre existing lovely features, like his expressive eyes and darling smile. Though hiding the freckles was a shame. That's what Mitsuki was comfortable with. Mentally, Biscree was thanking God, Mitsuki's parents, and the makeup department for their loving boyfriend's good looks. Biscree, you're here! Smiling when he spotted them in the kitchen. How was the day? Mitsuki, you're home early? Biscree lets go of the poor towel. They walked to Mitsuki with a prep in their step. Better, 'cause you're here, they giggled. Mitsuki may or may not have blushed a bit at that. I wonder if Mitsuki thinks I'm too much. I already made dinner. When was the last time he kissed me all on his own again? There's still work after dinner, but I get so excited. Not many chances for him to initiate. I'll finish the line art tonight. Biscree halted in front of Mitsuki. Normally, they would run up to him and ask for a kiss. Normally. But there they stood, smiling at their boyfriend. Nothing amiss. Mitsuki smiled back. If he was confused, he didn't show it. And he was confused. Confused as to why their cuddle bug of a significant other was a bit distant right now. Hmm? They'll tell me, I'm sure. The exchange was only a few seconds long, but for Biscree it felt like forever. Mentally screaming in panic the entire time. Silly Biz, Mitsuki is so deaf, can't worry. He already has a lot on his plate. It's fine. I like being the one to initiate anyways. I'm getting kisses and that's all that matters. Yep. Biscree hugs Mitsuki, pressing their forehead to the other's lips to ask for a kiss, and Mitsuki complies. That's how their greetings at homes are supposed to go. Maybe even more depending on the day. The ease of Biscree asking for a forehead kiss by simply placing their forehead to Mitsuki's lips is the only reason Biscree is happy about their scoliosis caused short stature. And the only reason why not wearing ridiculously tall heels while lounging is a good thing. As both of them break from the welcome home greeting, Mitsuki smiles, a bit more relieved compared to before, and Biscree can't help but to smile back. So, they reached out for Mitsuki's hand. Tell me about your day. Gently dragging Mitsuki to sit on the couch beside them, a twinkle in their eye. Their excitement is infectious. Mitsuki could feel his drained energy returned as he comfortably settles on the couch beside them, bringing a throw pillow close to his chest. The shoot went really smoothly, he starts, and Biscray is glued to every word he says, idly intertwining Mitsuki's and their own fingers together on the couch. He feels his heart flutter for a second upon the contact of smooth skin against his callous hands, but he continues. The photographer was thrilled with how easy I was to work with. The staff always adore you, Bisk interjects with pride. I do my best to get along. A particular comment pops up in Mitsuki's mind. The brand owner actually came to the shoot. Their CEO? Yup, she was thrilled to have me there, he recounts animatedly. The words settle into Mitsuki as soon as he says them. She said that nobody else but Izumi Mitsuki would have done my makeup justice, especially the lipstick. He said each word carefully, like if he spoke too fast, they'd shatter and become a mere delusion. I just. Mitsuki squeezes the pillow. Can't believe I have my own solo commercial for an elegant makeup brand, even. Oh, honey. Biscray squeezes his hand. You've worked so hard to be an amazing idol. They bring Mitsuki's hand close to their face, to their lips. Mitsuki is entranced. Biscray then nuzzles their cheek into his hand. About time the whole world caught up and recognized the facts. They close their eyes in bliss, like a cat basking in sunlight, oblivious to Mitsuki's surprise at the change of direction. I got you a gift, by the way. Mitsuki redirects. He gently pulls his hand and pillow away to reveal a tiny fancy gift bag he's been hiding. Biscray's eyes light up, a chipper tone in their voice. For me? Mitsuki gingerly hands them the bag, fingers lightly touching. Only lightly. Mitsuki's sanity chips again at that. Biscray takes the bag to reveal a lipstick in a pretty box. The brand you worked with! They recognize in glee, continuing to open the dainty box, then the ornate lipstick cap. Mitsuki held his breath as their significant other inspected his gift to them. Biscray's eyes glinted as the lipstick exposed itself from the tube bit by bit until it could be seen in its full spectacle. A lovely coral jelly lipstick with peach-colored flower embedded within. It was almost like a gem. Can I try it on? Their eyes flitting to Mitsuki before returning transfixed to the lipstick. He mentally gives himself a pat on the back. He's a good boyfriend. Of course, it's for you after all. Mitsuki didn't dare miss a second of it, eyes focused on Biscray's thin fingers holding the tube. The rustic orange of their nail polish complements the gold case and coral makeup. Biscray brings the lipstick closer. It touches their slightly parted lips with practice ease. They applied the lipstick, eyes half lidded in relaxed focus. The coral pigment glided across the bottom lip, carefully applying at the corners. Lipstick moving away from their bottom lip upon completion. Then, they repeat the process to their top lip with great care given to the cupid's bow. Upon finishing, they seal back the lipstick before gently putting it on their lap. Smack. Pop. The sound beckons Mitsuki's eyes back to Biscray's face. At lightning speeds, they were smacking their lips together. Mitsuki doesn't know too much about makeup application, but he figured it was to spread the color properly. When Biscray's eyes landed on him, Mitsuki stopped to a halt. So, Biscray playfully dragged the syllable, how do I look? Tilting their head from one angle to another, cheekily smiling. Biscray has always looked adorable in Mitsuki's eyes, from the round cheeks dotted by a beauty mark on the right that gave them a lively, youthful look, to the way their face crinkled in uncontrolled delight. They have a beauty mark under their left eyebrow that gives it a subtle lift compared to the right brow. Biscuit has mentioned to him before that they've been told that they look mean, but Mitsuki can't see it. Not when the person in front of them is the embodiment of affection. The coral on Biscuit's smiling lips pops against their complexion. It's glossy, Mitsuki notes. The lipstick makes Biscuit's lips look juicy. Mitsuki is almost tempted to reach out and see if it's as soft as it looks. Mitsuki's a professional. He won't fumble and become a flustered mess. You look great. It especially looks good against your tan skin. Biscuit blooms under the praise, humming in satisfaction. They quickly fish their phone to use as camera. To use the camera, they quickly fish their phone to use the camera as a mirror. Why, thank you, darling dearest. Pleased with how the lipstick looks on them. Correct answer. 100 points. They smile cheekily as their attention is fully returned to their beloved boyfriend. Mitsuki's eyes continue to trail Biscuit's lips. Then to the lipstick as he observed Biscuit handing the tube to him. How about you put it on too? You'd look so handsome with it. They swoon. Mitsuki's caught a bit off guard by the sudden change of who's in the spotlight, but he accepts the lipstick. Sure? He uncups and unscrews the lipstick from the tube. I've used lip balm before, and I've experienced staff putting some on me. I can figure it. Mitsuki trails off with their attention going back to Biscuit, who moves a bit closer. Oh, they quietly begin. So, you've had other people touch your face? Biscuit leans their face closer. Their eyes trail off to Mitsuki's lips. There's a teasing glint in them that could also be heard in their voice. That makes me, ever so slightly, their eyes meet, jealous. Are they going to kiss me? They both thought, a bated breath process. Why aren't they kissing me? They both thought, confused. Mitsuki is the first to back off from the teasing with a light laugh. Oh, shut up, that's their job. Focusing back on the lipstick in order to calm his heart. He knows there's something definitely amiss with Biscuit. As to what exactly it is, he'll just have to find out. I just wanted to mess with you, Biscuit cheerily assures. But before he can even ask any questions, they already redirected the conversation. What I actually want, though, Biscuit reaches towards Mitsuki's hand holding the lipstick. Can I? Yeah. Biscuit gently plucks the lipstick from his hands. What I want is to be the one to apply the lipstick on you. Can I? They smiled in assurance. No pressure, of course. On me? Jeez, you should have said so earlier, brat. He huffs without much bite, smiling back at the end. Yes! Biscuit cheers with delight. They get up from their seat, and Mitsuki's eyes follow them, a bit confused about their plan. Biscuit stands in front of their sitting boyfriend. They lean a bit forward towards him and put their knee on the sofa cushion for support right beside Mitsuki's inner knee. Then they gently hold Mitsuki's chin, urging him to tilt his head slightly up so they can get a better look of his face. Every time Biscuit stays over for their occasional visits, Mitsuki is constantly amazed at how little the concept of personal space mattered to them. He knows they're affectionate with everyone, not just him. But sometimes he wonders if they do it on purpose or are they really just as oblivious as they seem. He can't help but focus on the gentle hold on his chin. Mitsuki knows Biscuit. He knows they'll lean in for a kiss to surprise him, maybe just barely missing his lips just to be a tease. Yet, the kiss never comes, no matter how much Mitsuki's heart thumps. Part your lips slightly for me. Mitsuki's confused, yet he complies. Frustrated. Frustration and confusion has been bubbling ever since their welcome home greeting. Why wouldn't Biscuit kiss him? The physical incarnation of physical affection has yet to kiss him ever since he got home from work. Did they grow tired of him? No, no. They were just as affectionate as usual. It was just the kisses that stopped specifically. Oops, Biscree's mumble brought him back to reality. Mitsuki wasn't even sure what warranted the oops. But apparently, in his deep thought, Bisque had already applied the lipstick on his lower lip. A gentle swipe of Biscree's finger, a little past the bottom of his lips, surprised him. Just a swipe of a finger to remove a little lipstick. Still not a kiss. Oh, Mitsuki quietly realized. Biscree wants me to kiss them. The reality of the situation hits him like a truck. Everything made sense under this assumption. The hesitant greeting, the nuzzle, the jealousy bit, the whole current situation that he's in. It wasn't just Biscree being a tease. They're asking for it. For their whole relationship, every time Biscree stayed in Japan, they were always the one to initiate, brazenly giving affection and unabashedly asking to receive affection. But that was it. Biscree always asked for affection. It's something that Mitsuki complies with rather than something he gives by himself. Problem identified. Honestly, it would probably resolve itself after dinner, with Biscree straight up admitting their worries. Holding back was something Biscree wasn't the best at anyways. But that didn't sit right with him. Mitsuki's a good boyfriend, and like any good man, he'll give it his all. Yosh, I just have to show Biscree I love them. The lipstick guides smoothly on his upper lip. Gah! Mitsuki thinks, being frustrated at his own nerves. His lips feel rejuvenated and glossy from the lipstick. Why am I so worked up? Okay, Biscree calls. Now copy me. Smack, pop. Biscree's gotten me so used to receiving affection, waiting for a cue. Mitsuki follows them without question. Smack, pop. It's messing with my brain. He bashfully realizes. Biscree, with their furrowed brows, tilts their boyfriend's head at different angles to observe their own handiwork. Relaxing, stepping back, and letting go of Mitsuki's chin upon being satisfied. Handsome as ever, they gush and coo at his pretty face. Mitsuki's eyes follow them as they sit happily beside him. I don't need to wait for it, yeah? Man up, me! Let's take a picture! Biscree fishes for their phone, oblivious to the mental battle that their boyfriend is fighting beside them. Take action. A calloused hand, swiftly yet gently, is placed on the top of their shoulder. Mitsuki leans in to close the distance. His soft lips lands on their cheek. Lingering for a second too long, but feels like a minute too short. Mitsuki kissed Biscree. Mitsuki initiated a kiss with Biscree. Biscree thought they were having a delusion, but the telltale feeling of an ever so slightly sticky gloss was still on their cheek. They reach out to touch it, where Mitsuki kissed them. A still fresh smudge of glossy coral lipstick stains their index and middle finger. They can see it. It's very much real. Mitsuki still loves me. They celebrate in their head with glee, fully aware of how stupid their worries from earlier were, but as stupid as the fear of being too annoying, of being too close, of being too much. It was real to Biscree. They do their best to fight that worry with facts and continue as usual, but of course it's different when you actually experience the other person's true feelings firsthand. Mitsuki watches with bated breath. Did he misread Biscree's feelings? Their surprised eyes slowly move from their own stained fingers to look at Mitsuki, and when those eyes landed on him, they sparked an unadulterated joy like fireworks. Biscree gasped and smiled with glee. Mitsuki! Looks like he was right on the money. Relief floods him as he sees Biscree change in demeanor. A mischievous, toothy grin, determined eyes, and blushing cheeks are what adorned Biscuit's face. Payback! They squealed in delight, and the next thing Mitsuki knew, he was being tackled. The world spins metaphorically as his head and back tumble into the soft cushion. The fall made his pillow from earlier fall to the floor. Biscuit is absolutely delighted at the sound of at the sight of their boyfriend's short ginger hair splayed out on the dark blue couch. His face was cutely scrunched and his eyes were shut to brace for the impact. But what delighted Biscuit the most is that from this distance, they found out that Mitsuki's foundation is pretty light in coverage, enough to hide the little blemishes that everyone has, but not enough to completely get rid of his freckles upon closer inspection. And it definitely wasn't enough to hide how his pale complexion flushes in the prettiest shade of pink onto his heated cheeks and ears. He was the picture perfect definition of cute enough to eat. When he opened his eyes, his vision was flooded with biscuit. They were on top of Mitsuki. Their black jellyfish tail hair splays against their neck, spilling over their shoulders. Highlighted strands escape and dangled from their slick back bangs. Biscuit's eyes are filled with stars, and they have such a pleased, smug look on their face. Mitsuki couldn't tear his eyes away from their glossy lips as Biscuit got closer. Dainty hands that smell of orange blossom and hand cream cup his face. His eyes squeeze shut as Biscuit plants a kiss on his nose bridge. His breath hitches. That's where the kisses start. His left cheek, his right cheek, his forehead, by his jaw. Mitsuki could feel his head be lovingly tilted and turned to whatever direction their lover fancied. Particular attention was again brought to his cheeks, as if Biscuit was on a dead-set mission to replace all the freckles on his face with kisses. Mitsuki doesn't know where to place his hands. With every kiss, he feels like he's floating away more and more. So he settles on grabbing onto Biscuit's back, feeling the natural unevenness from their disability. It was much better choice than to clutch at the cushions for dear life. Biscuit was relentless with their attack. From his dazed state, he can hear the tiny giggles and the pleased hums from their lover, who was clearly having the time of their life. As manly of a man Mitsuki knows he is, in between Biscuit's relentless kisses, he couldn't stop a few surprise noises spill out. Though he was still cognitive enough to make sure that none of his noises would ever sound like any form of stop or protest, because as overwhelmed as he is right now, the last thing he wants is to stop all this affection and attention directed at him. And what kind of man would ever deny their loved one of what they want the most? Forehead, temple, cheekbone, cheek, cheek, side of chin, neck. Mitsuki's eyes snap open by the jaw, cheek, cheekbone, tip of his ear. He could hear Biscuit take a breath as they leaned away. Mitsuki's face is littered with lipstick stains, too many to quickly count right now. Biscuit had a satisfied look as they observed their own handiwork. Mitsuki was riled up by that smug expression. As dazed as he was, Mitsuki is not the type to back down. "Is that all you got, my spouse?" he goaded. Biscuit was taken aback by the sudden use of the endearment, but quickly they composed themselves. "As if," they scoffed. He could feel the hold on his face become firm as Biscuit once again dived back in. A kiss, just as the corner of his mouth, barely missing his lips, lingering a second too long, yet it feels like a minute too short. He didn't actually think Biscuit would immediately go for the kill, but they did. And the last of Mitsuki's brain was sent careening into the abyss. The common room door swings open. "Oh, Bisque!" It was just the couple's best friend, Nagi, wailing in a manner too over the top for the issue to actually be life or death. He yells before even surveying the room. Unlock yours and Mitsuki's room, please. It's magical Kokona time. Hmm? Biscuit pulls away, but forgets to let go of Mitsuki's face and looks towards the commotion. Oh, hi Nagi. Bisque would normally be worried about embarrassing Mitsuki by being caught in such a brazen display of affection. But it was just Nagi after all. The blonde man was basically the couple's cupid. Biscuit's voice catches the attention of Nagi. Upon noticing the couple by the couch, his demeanor relaxes into his usual self, and he calmly walks towards the two. Mitsuki is here. I thought he'd be at work. It was a bit amusing to Biscuit for Nagi to be so casual about the Kiswar situation. Biscuit turns to their boyfriend. Shoot ended earlier, right, babe? What? Mitsuki was dazed from the whole situation he was in and the situation he now finds himself in. He was barely registering what Biscuit said. Oh, the shoot, yeah. That barely passable answer seemed to suffice for both Bisque and Nagi, as Nagi decides to return to his distressed demeanor from earlier. I really hate to break you lovers up, but he scrambles, grabbing at his own face in horror. Bisque, it's Kokona time! Biscuit gasped at the realization, sending a flitting check to the common room clock. 3 minutes left. They let go of Mitsuki's head in horror. Your Kokona time! Mitsuki's room has the best TV and speaker setup, which means it's the only place to watch anything important. So, Biscuit scrambles to make sure Mitsuki sits up as fast as possible without hurting himself. Mitsuki actually keeps his head up. Biscuit looks him over, fixing the shirt collar and even quickly smoothing the wrinkles on his shirt. You good? Of course, he manages. They stand up. Good. I'll come back to help clean in a sec. Biscuit gently holds the back of his head and plants a quick kiss on the crown of his head before rushing out of the room with Nagi. And just like that, Mitsuki alone in the common room to comprehend what just happened. Gah! He groans in aggressive bashfulness and flops back to the couch. Mitsuki decides that the ceiling is very interesting to stare at right now. But as lovely as the ceiling is, memories from earlier, hell, every memory that he has of Biscuit keeps intruding into his mind. So he sighs in defeat, reaching out to touch Biscuit's last kiss mark at the corner of his mouth. Glossy coral lipstick stains in his index and middle fingers. The shine shifts as Mitsuki tilts his fingers, observing how the light affects it. He's reminded of their lips. The next thing he knew, his own fingers were touching his lips. The pads of his fingers gently settled on his lips as his thoughts wandered off to images of certain someone. As minutes passed, his brain finally caught up to his racing heart that finally started to relax. Now he feels quite silly. He lets out an embarrassed chuckle as he removes his fingers. I need to wash this off before the others walk in. Good, I'll come back to help clean in a sec. An image of Biscuit lovingly holding his face while wiping away the kiss stains flashes in his mind, and for no particular reason at all, Mitsuki decides that he would like to continue to lie down for maybe a minute more. And here's an extra story for you guys. Extra. Did we clean it all off? Mitsuki and Biscuit stare into the handheld mirror. I think so. They were, sitting side by side on the common room couch with the mirror, makeup remover, and cotton buds. Biscuit grabbed on their quick way back from their shared room. The common room door opens again, though more normally this time. I'm home, Yamato announces to no one in particular. Welcome home, Biscuit replies, a bit too fast to be considered normal, hiding the cleaning stuff behind a pillow. Mitsuki hesitates a second for how to respond in a way that would inspire the least amount of teasing from his friend. Yamato-san, welcome home. Yamato looks over to their direction. squinting his scheming eyes, or rather, glasses prescription needing eyes, towards the couple. He then bursts into a big Cheshire grin. Oh, to be young, he teases before walking towards the kitchen. I'll get out of your hair. Just let me grab a beer real quick. Oi, old man, what are you talking about? Yamato continues to walk about, this time with his beer can in hand and casually heading towards the door, happily paying Mitsuki no mind. The couple's eyes trail after him. He stops right at the door, then turns to smirk at the two. You missed the spot. Biscuit hopes that he was just messing with them and takes a quick scan of their boyfriend. Clean, clean, clean. There it was. Bright as day on the same exact spot Yamato said it would be. I missed a spot! They flounder at their mistake, and Mitsuki yelps at the revelation that Yamato was not just being a menace. Yamato took that as his sign to leave, chuckling at the comedy show that happened in front of him. Biscuit turns full body towards Mitsuki and hastily scrubs with a cotton pad as the last remaining lipstick stain on his neck, and Mitsuki takes it like a champ. It's off now. Biscuit backs away, their voice much smaller and more embarrassed. Sorry, I got carried away. Mitsuki's heart squeezes at that. It's fine. He pats their head. Yamato-san was just teasing. Biscuit hesitantly smiles. Okay, just let me know if I'm ever too much. I think Mitsuki leans his head on Biscuit's shoulder. Their heart skips a beat. Next time, we can skip the lipstick entirely. He whispers before nuzzling into the crook of their neck and implanting a kiss there. This makes Biscuit erupt into a pile of satisfied giggles. Sounds lovely. They squeal as they embrace their beloved boyfriend, Mitsuki. The end. How did you guys think of my first fic? So yeah, let me go back read actually. There we go. Yeah. Where was I? How dare they massacre my husband? I know, Bandai Namco, what are you doing to my boy? I know you have money to spare. You do it for Riku and Kujo all the time. Most time for bed. Good night, Biz. Good night, Crasher. Good night, Crasher. And then Penny says, just realize a little self-insert crazy. Yeah. Just saying that people, just saying that the people, reach. This was a sub goal. Okay, this was a sub goal. This was brought upon by you people. Rockman saying short. Oh, God. Yes, unfortunately, I am. But no, as I said, the best thing about being short is being the perfect height for forehead kisses. And Rockman says, for moi? For moi? For moi? Hehehe. And Kitty says, oh. Rockman says juicy? Why? What did I say? Did I accidentally say juicy instead of jealous? I said jealous for sure. That makes me oh so. I watch that part. Let me read that. Yeah. Yeah. That makes me oh so ever so slightly jealous. ASMR. Yes. I added little kissy noises. I hope you guys like the kissy noises. There we go. Mitsuki getting Bitsuki. Nah, no chomping in this fic. Oh my gosh, I was giggling and kicking your feet. Glad to see Kitty enjoyed it. Yeah, juicy lips. Yeah. Okay, lovely. I'm glad that you guys like the fic and the kissy noises. Oh my, there you go. Have one last kissy noise for the road. Oh. Yes, I enjoyed the sound effects. I'm gonna make it what do you call this? If I'm gonna listen up, I'm gonna make a if I'm gonna make a fanfic, okay? If I'm gonna make a fanfic reading, I'm gonna do it right, okay? I'm gonna do it right. Kissing, uh, kissing no, you just almost made it too horny. Oh god, you guys can't handle a little bit of kissing? Damn. Wow, guys, sorry. Sorry, I just seem to have that effect on people. Insane. But no, this is clean, wholesome, Christian Minecraft server fanfic. If you could see, if you could see the link at the top, you guys can go over and read it for yourselves. Maybe leave a kudos. Maybe leave a comment. That will make me so happy. Okay. Shall I'm gonna go read my second the second one, the one that's written by Momorin. He. Actually, do you guys want to hear some stuff that I wrote? Some the why I wrote some stuff. I'm gonna do it in an ASMR voice. There you go. Yeah, the art. As someone who doesn't actually do a lot of writing myself, it's interesting to see the style and detail you put into the direction. Oh, actually, I can talk a little bit about that. There, the art you did with me, you and Mitsuki came to mind with the kissy face Mitsuki. Yes, that's actually what inspired this whole fanfic. I imagined in this book. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, let me run through you through guys some of the stuff that why I wrote some stuff. I really like the whole starting with a sound effect type of thing or setting the scene, that type of thing. I like doing that. Um, I hope you guys noticed the comedy, the slight attempts at comedy that I did with the whole. If Biscuit spent a bit too long drying their hands, I was between them and the kitchen towel because that was me strangling the kitchen towel. Yeah. Um, and also actually the reason why I wrote this fic is because actually in real life I have a problem. So I was like, what's the best way to resolve my issues in real life? To resolve my issues in real life. Write fan fiction about it. Okay, because as you guys know, I'm a very affectionate, a physically affectionate person. Like not in romance exactly or whatever, just platonically and familially. I am a cuddle bug of a person. So much so that it's a bit of a problem for me because I love giving away kisses. I love giving kisses. I love giving hugs. I love holding people's hands. I love just being very affectionate with people. However, I'm so affectionate towards people that people aren't just as affectionate as me, and that's a problem for me. I respect people's spaces, of course, but sometimes it just gets a little bit lonely, you know? I'm out here giving kisses to people unprompted, you know? Just like, oh, come over here, forehead kiss for you. Yeah, that type of thing. But I never get that back, you know? And that feels so lonely. And rather than lonely, mm, it feels like Mm, it feels not reassuring in a sense. Like, oh, I'm just imposing my will onto others, you know? Like, oh, do they actually want kisses from me? Or am I just. Or am I just like bothering them? You know, or they're just like, oh, here's Biscuit again. I guess get this over with type of thing. So yeah, I resolved this issue though by basically complaining about it. No, I'm by basically being more vocal about it, specifically to my family. Like I'm a very, you know, I love familial affection. I love, you know, I love forehead kisses, all that jazz. And so remember I was it got resolved actually, and one of the story time that happened was I just finished breakfast. I was going to give kisses to me mother and me father before I skedaddle out into my room again and do work. Yeah, but yeah, so I give me mom a kiss on a kiss on the top crown of the head, and then before I even did anything, I see me father like just do like a big lean over to my direction because he and I was like, oh my god, they want kiss from me, they want the forehead kiss from me too, and that makes me really happy and not lonely and reassured. Yeah, so yippee. So compartmentalize your so I compartmentalize my feelings through fan fiction. Takes drag of cigarette, poetic cinema. So yeah. But in this case, yeah, in this case, the wish fulfillment here is that I don't actually need to talk about my problems, and and Mitsuki can just guess them out for me. Oh, one thing about Mitsuki's guess is he actually guessed wrong. He actually guessed wrong. Biscuit was not asking him to kiss him. Except for one time was not baiting him to kiss him. To kiss them. Except for one time during the jealous bit, that was the only time. The rest, Biscuit was actively holding back. Biscuit was actively holding back. So I wanted to like, I didn't want Mitsuki to be like a psychic or anything. So I wanted them to guess wrong, but like still end up at the same right conclusion. I had so much fun writing the kissy parts too. It was so fun. The kissy parts got good reception. You could, yeah. There we go. You could feel the tension. Hee hee. There you go. Kissy. It was so fun. Mostly because I specifically well thought out. I like it. Thank you. Yeah, and I guess the last thing that I'll probably bring up, one of the last things I'll bring up here was where was I? Mm-hmm. This part where Mitsuki was crashing out about needing to kiss Bisk, and like this part here. Okay, Bisk calls, now copy me. Smack, pop. And then Biscuit's gotten me so used to receiving affection and waiting for a cue. And then what happens? Mitsuki follows them without question. Smack, pop. So it takes drag of a cigarette. It's happening. The things that he's thinking about is also happening at the same time. Biscuit tells them to smack pop. Mitsuki also unquestionably just does a smack pop because that was their cue. um, aside from that, mm, oh yeah, the makeup here is absolutely unfucking accurate. What do you mean Biscuit's hand cream manages, scent of hand cream manages to stay in their hands after they literally just finish washing dishes? And what do you mean that that their foundation is light in coverage in a very, very specific way? Yeah. And what do you mean their lipstick transfers over that much when it's like an elegant premium brand? Yeah. So inaccurate makeup stuff. And last thing will be the kissy parts. Oh, I specifically did the kissy parts to be very short sentences. So much short sentences, you know. His left that's when kisses truly start. His left cheek, his right cheek, his forehead by his jaw. Yeah, I had so much fun just writing them down bit by bit. Forehead, temple, cheekbone, cheek, side of chin, neck. Mitsuki's eyes snap open by the jaw, cheekbone, tip of his ear. Yeah. It transferred through the power of passion with a capital P. God. Originally, I wanted Mitsuki to be more bashful about the situation after, but then I realized, oh no, Mitsuki's not gonna back down. So the fucking is that all you got, my spouse? Ooh, that was like a second change on that. I was so happy I did that. Okay, there you go. Also, I hope you guys enjoyed the little silly shenanigans that Nagi and Yamato did. The whole "your coconut time," and the whole "you missed a spot." Okay, I'll go read the other fic now. Thank you so much for listening to me and my shenaniganeries. Reading Yume fanfic. I don't know what Kakuna time is though. Don't. It's a magical girl. It's an anime type of thing. Thank you for the hydrate and the big stretch. Kakuna. That at Mochi Macha Momo wrote for me. There you go. So the fanfic is written up. Yeah, go read it. Go read it. Go give it a kudos or something. This is the new one. This is the new one that my friend wrote for me. Okay. Okay, so here's the title. Even if we get there one day, there's no harm in wanting now. By Mochi Matcha Momo. Oh, Momo is here. Oh shit. Hi. Hi. God. I'm so embarrassed now. I stress. No, no, no. You did lovely. You did lovely. There we go. Summary. He's Idol Seven's Izumi Mitsuki, and he'd be damned if he can't be as good as a boyfriend as the idol he was. So this was a gift for me. We did an art trade. Yes. And I'm about to read it. So once again, this is even if we get there one day, there's no harm in wanting now. You would think one Izumi Mitsuki ponders in the depths of a crowd on this sweltering summer day that being an idol for as long as he had meant he'd be more prepared for unexpected circumstances. Instead, he now stands in Tokyo Big Sight with a practiced smile plastered on his face as he tries to keep his eyes glued onto his darling partner. Considering the current circumstance, he tries not to lose focus on the matter at hand. But really, the only bright side is seeing Biscuit dolled up in a delightfully form-fitting maid-inspired getup. Like him, they've been trying to get a signal on their phone, but expectedly, neither Wi-Fi nor regular phone reception were going through. At that moment, he sees them stand on their tippy toes, and there's a brief moment of panic. Yes, he knows they're capable and have managed to strive and persist all this time despite their chronic condition. But he worries too much that it hurts sometimes. He'd never know if he could ever forgive himself if they got hurt because of him. After all, a primary reason why they were here was because of Mitsuki after all. They'd been dating long distance for a good while now, and with his idol career, simply dropping everything to fly and see them was a pipe dream. So when Biscuit had announced they'd be flying over, he naturally took the chance to ensure he had time off to spend together. Of course, there had been the oh so teeny tiny reoccurring problem, his idol career. He didn't need the discerning, almost glowering eyes of Kujo Ten launching into a full-blown 50-page documented lecture on why it would be a terrible idea to be seen on a romantic date by his fans. The last thing he'd ever want was for any ire to be thrown his beloved's way. But hey, if being an older sibling, helping out his family business had taught him, it was responsibility and planning. So, to ensure they could spend some time together, whilst also keeping Biscuit's interest in mind, he came up with a foolproof date idea. A date at an anime convention. Considering that the cosplay was well expected, it was easy for him to go undercover, so to speak. Even better that the two of them could go essentially matching. It was the perfect secret date plan. Well, almost. The one Mitsuki had proposed was a new Anicon coming this summer, and although not as bustling as Summer Comic-Con or Anime Japan, it would be jam-packed with popular artists and fan merchants. Nagi had been raving all about it, almost to tears, once he realized his modeling schedule had horribly clashed with the con dates. Apparently, a well-known Maho Shoujo magical Kokona circle was slated to have a booth. In hindsight, Mitsuki should have taken that as a sign. That and jam-packed, because he and everyone here may as well be packed like a tin of sardines. It was bad enough he couldn't get a physical disability certificate or badge for them. And even worse, he couldn't score any VIP passes. They were sold out by the time arrangements were made. Despite all that, he told Iori to stop hovering over him and that they would be fine. And no, your big brother doesn't need you to chaperone him on his date. Iori, please. It was a smaller anime convention kind of affair after all. Huffing to himself, he looks back to his wonderful partner. Truly, he couldn't stress enough how nicely the maid attire outlined their figure to how the blue hues of highlights in their hair truly popped, helping to bring a hint of playfulness. It worked alongside the pink accents through it all. Well, of course, it all worked well together, considering the effort Biscuit had put into it. He was a lucky man, wasn't he? An attractive, multifaceted, truly talented partner. Mitsuki. The man in question nearly jumped at the whisper of his name right by his ear. Bisque, thank heavens for the boisterous crowd. The outburst would surely attract stares. With a slight cough, he straightened up. Uh, so, any luck? He motioned to their phone, and they could only sigh in response. They've been trying to find their way out of this crowd for maybe an hour. There wasn't any organizers or people volunteering that were giving out maps, and there was only a singular layout map at the very entrance. He could almost kick himself for not taking a picture. I wish, Biscree said. How about you spot the exit? Holding back a more wry expression, he forced a laugh. Even if I were wearing your heels, Bisque, I don't think I could see through this crowd. Ah. He sees them look down at their phone again, pensive. Instantly, he stuck himself by their side, linking their arms together. Biscuit's eyes widen at the sudden shift. He simply smiles brightly for them, bright akin to show-stopping performance. Well, enough moping around, I think. If neither of us can find it standing around, we should just follow the crowd. He's Idolish Seven's Izumi Mitsuki, and he'd be damned if he can't be as good as a boyfriend as the idol he was. So he shifts his mood to a more perkier, upbeat feel and scans around to study the flow of people to have a general idea of where they may be. He doesn't have the layout memorized per se, but enough con going with Nagi is enough to give this man some semblance of a general layout of one. No wonder it's so crowded here. We're close to the artist alley, Mitsuki observed. Shall we take a look around? Not too closely. My wallet needs to be standing by the end of the day. I'll get it for you if you really want something. And before their beloved could strongly protest, he interjects what he felt to be a solid counter. Besides, a few art pieces, doujins, or fan merch kind of pale into the work you put into our get-ups, right? Speaking of, he's like to think his own getup would prevent immediate guesses, mask and maid dress and all, to whom he was. Sure, he's been in states of cross dress for work before, but surely. They remained linked arm in arm, a little tricky considering their heights and footwear for the occasion. But the crowd proved fierce enough that it was a good call. And for the nth time that day, Mitsuki sends his thanks to Nagi, with a small layer of restraint, of course, that he can pick up the excited conversation of Biscuit shares with the merch vendors with items that catches their eyes. He catches snapshots of arcs of intensive soccer animes, or frustratingly, even if he'd never say it out loud, fan squealings over internet idols. There's a bit of tongue holding on the latter, less about the rising and needed note of not underestimating the online avatar stars as rivals in the industry, and more that his commentary would definitely label him as someone familiar with it. Best to play it safe after all. In a point of hilarity, his partner's jab about their walling being at risk wasn't so much as a joke as a true risk, considering the merch that was steadily building up. There was a small debate on the latter half of shopping, with Mitsuki insisting to get it for them as he handled the merch bags dangling on his arm. An unfortunate debuff, as it meant Biscuit could either reach for their own wallet faster or steer them both away before another monetary crossroads of a choice is made. He can't help but wonder if in the future it would be like this. A daydream coating over the con hall to a more domestic, idyllic versions of supermarkets and talks of what's for dinner and what do you want me to pack for lunch. He tries not to be flustered at his imagination. Somewhere between, Biscuit continuing to browse and Mitsuki adding light commentary where he can, a shrill squee rings out. Initially unnoticed, considering the crowd density and that it could be directed at anyone, but then he feels it, the rapid tapping on his shoulder. Mitsuki turns inquisitive and suddenly alert because oh no, was he recognized after all? He can't quite determine the person he was looking at, an androgynous beauty clad in military-esque fashion, and a phone clutched in a free hand. Behind them, a mousy, flowery, and feminine young woman looking flustered. Her yukata still impressively intact despite the movement. Fumi, you can't just. Maybe they're busy? The woman in the yukata pulls her friend back just a smidge. Sorry. Fumi apologetically smiles, but waves her phone at uh, waves their phone at him as Biscuit inquisitively looked over his shoulder at the pair. I was just wondering if I could take a picture with the two of you. Is that alright? Or Fumi saw you a few boots down, and she kept saying she had to take a picture of the two of you, cause your cosplays were so cute. He looked at his partner, just as they did the same, and then back at the new pair. He hears the surprise in Biscuit's voice, and a hint of happiness that no doubt at the recognition of their work. I mean, they looked at him, and bless their heart. He knew why they were being so cautious. Sometimes he does wonder if it ever hangs on them, on how heavy the weight of having to date an idol, never mind a long distance one. He unlinks their arms to shift behind them, gently pushing them forward by their shoulders. Of course, we don't mind. Maybe we should try to find a more spacious spot so we don't. Mitsuki motioned to the booth they're standing in front of with one hand, the vendors flashing him a thankful smile. Fumi nodded energetically and pointed to a spot a few paces away. A miracle considering the amount of work. Hilariously, once at the spot, modeling training under idol work was, of course, bountifully useful for such a specific situation outside of said work. Biscry, trusting them wholeheartedly, allowed him to lead the poses between them, be it ones facing the camera or more in the moments between them. During the latter, more cone goers had stopped to join Fumi in snapshotting them. There was one, to the surprise Mitsuki guessed considering his stature at a glance, that gave the small gathering of people a surprise as he easily dipped his partner with all the arm strength he had. He had to hold back a tease at Biscuit's slight blush and them mounting, I'm going to get back at you for this. Hilarious. I look forward to it. He mouths back. The only reprieve Biscuit gets as he directs their pose to. Perhaps something, just something being he felt like being cheeky about, between needing to be Japanese about affection and outright no public affection between them at all. Sometimes he would like to be able to. What are you doing? Biscuit whispered in concern as he positioned them with faces close, nose almost touching, from from body language to spaces between them, like a private moment of tenderness wrapped in ambiguity as to what may be happening, but no room to misread the love between them. I may never get I may never get the chance to show everyone just how much I love you. He cups their face with his hands, looking at them with all the intense affection that had grown between them. But one word from you is all I need. If you're uncomfortable, or if you don't like this, it's not that I don't like this. I just. Their eyes dart to the flustered photo taking congoers and back to him. Is this alright for you? He knows the meaning. They're always concerned for him, for his reputation and his work, just as much as he cares for their condition and what is to come for the future of them. Maybe they truly match in many regards, but the unconditional love and all the worry that comes with it is just something that they share. What's not to be alright? We're just a pair of bunny mates attending an anime convention, aren't we? He winks despite the mask. And all is right with everything as Biscuit softly laughs back. After a few more rounds of photographs, it's Fumi herself that interjects for them, but thanks them for their time. He joins her in cajoling the crowd, thanking them in their kind for their surprising attention, all things considered. But my partner really wanted to see the live stage, so we have to hurry. A good as reason as any, Fumi even points them the way. You can't miss it. It's right next to the Gunpla exhibit. It's super crowded though, Fumi's friend sighs, cause the exit is right next to the Gunplas. Oh? These two didn't know how much they just helped them. He waved them both goodbye and faced his partner with renewed optimism. I may not see the exit, but I can definitely see the giant Gunpla models. Then we have our exit strategy. Mitsuki had to fight the urge to hug them right there, as he looked at their animated hand motions. Truly unfair, almost as if Biscuit doesn't know how cute they are. True, he offered his arm to them again, and with the exit more or less located, do you wanna have a little more time to look around? Well, they hum for a few silly good measures before they continue. I mean, I apparently wanted to check out the mini life stage, so then I shall escort my fellow maid, post haste. It's just nice to be able to be a regular couple, going around the convention and, well, not worrying. After getting stopped for a few more times for pictures, they decided to take a few for themselves. Misker even brought up the fun idea of decorating them like purikura pictures, and Mitsuki couldn't help but be delighted at the thought of keeping a mini collection in his wallet. As a phone lock screen may be a tad risky. With the whole worry about not being able to stop the exit cast aside, it helped to lighten everything up as well. They didn't just stop at the mini live stage, but simply took the plunge to explore a little. The only casualty, of course, was his partner's wallet, even with Mitsuki's buffer. By the time they made it out of of the exhibition hall, both his arms had an assortment of bags hanging off them. They had shifted into a more secluded corner of the outskirts to breathe, finally away from the hustle and bustles of the crowd they'd been surrounded by all afternoon. He lets himself relax for a moment, watching Biscuit as the early sunset paints the sky behind them. They were checking their planner, or maybe a map, and he knows they also made plans to eat somewhere nearby Tokyo Big Sight. But see, they've been together for 2 years, and knowing about their medical condition aside, they just had to bear through a crowd and mostly stood and walked for most of the afternoon. So sue him for worrying. Hey, Biscuit. They turned to him, head tilted acquisitively. Maybe I should call manager son to walk us home. We could order something once we're back at the dorms. Their hands lowered, phone pressed against their chest, and brows slightly furrowed. You sure? I can hear your stomach grumbling a little there. What's a bit of hunger to him right now, all things considered? I'm alright. We should just head back and rest. Mitsuki, they said firmly, determined. What's really on your mind? Uh, I messed up today. I should have prepared for all this way better than I did. And you're probably really tired. He huffs, admitting and defeated. This was a terrible date. I'm sorry. He looked at the ground, dejected. Then his head gets lifted. Having him look into Biscuit's eyes, it was a refreshing sight, considering the masked faces all afternoon. You silly, silly man. How was today terrible for me, huh? You made sure to make things look good. You made sure to make things good for me all this while, and don't pretend like you haven't been basically doing all the heavy lifting. They looked at the bags all around him with a shake of the head. Besides, they gently brush his cheeks, smile as soft as the sunset hue. I'm more worried about how you feel. A date is a date when both of us are having a good time, you know. Mitsuki laid his hands over theirs with a smile. I did enjoy myself. I spent it with you after all. Geez, what a pair they make, huh? I just wanted to make this amazing for you, and I keep wondering what I need to do. I just want to be the best boyfriend I can be for you. Between the long distance, his job, and their condition to work around, sometimes he can't help but wonder what more he needs to do. You don't have to give me the moon, Mitsu. They laugh, more melodic than any chime. Uh, I'm already happy because we're together. They were really amazing, huh? How did he get so lucky? Besides, they say, suddenly getting flustered, cheeks pink, and unlike earlier, the mask was nowhere in sight to hide the pretty shade. We, uh, we have the rest of our lives to figure out how to keep doing this. The rest of their lives. Wait, that sounded almost like. Miss Cree then pulls away from him, lightning quick and eyes darting the other way. Up, up, I guess I am maybe feeling a little tired after all. Shall we call Tsumugi? He'll let them get away easy this time. With a renewed spark and assurance within, he laughs. Sure, I'll cook us something tasty when we get back. Like Biscuit said, they had the rest of their lives to figure it all out. And yeah. So one of Momo's notes here was they said the one scene of Mitsuki flawlessly giving fan service to those cheer girls lives rent free in my head. Shame, shame, shame. I also just found out Mitsuki's just such a good character study of self worth and self improvement. TBA is really good being. He is. Oh my god. And indeed, yeah, I'll be doing like a highlight clip for I'll be doing a highlight clip for both of these stories, by the way. So yeah, I really love this. I really love this. I left such a fucking big a big like comment on this. Let me put down the links to both of the thingy-ma-bobbins. So romantic. So this work is my work, and then this one is Momorin's work. Thank you so much for letting me read those. I may be an amateur at all of this ASMR reading stuff, but I had fun. I wonder if in the future maybe I can try to do some ASMR scripts. I'll have to practice though. Especially yeah, I'll have to practice though. Or maybe I don't know. I think it's really fun to do. I might even learn how to edit my own stuff. There we go. I don't know. I just want to try a lot of avenues of like VTubing stuff because it's so fun. Having fun is the most important part. Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, I had so much fun reading Momorin's work. I am not sure if you guys could tell it, but I was being so I was gushing over I was gushing over the story a bit too much. It was making it hard for me to keep to keep myself in check. Meanwhile, I was having what do you call this? Meanwhile, over when I was doing my own like a kiss me, yeah, story. I was having it was a bit awkward for me to transition from the sound effects to the from the sound effects to the actual writing. So I had fun. I had fun. I hope you guys had fun again. And before we go back, there we go. Mhm. And before we go back to the Little Mermaid, here have one last kissy noise. There you go. Hehehe. So I'll unpin that message and we can go back. We can go back to the Little Mermaid. This is the part where she is going to meet the sea witch. Okay, where was I? Here. He is certainly sailing above, he on whom my wishes depend, and in whose hands I should like to place the happiness of my life. I will venture all for him, and to win an immortal soul. While my sisters are dancing in my father's palace, I will go to the sea witch, of whom I have always been so much afraid, but she can give me counsel and help. And then the little mermaid went out from her garden and took the road to the foaming whirlpools behind which the sorceress lived. She had never been that way before, Neither flowers nor grass grew there. Nothing but bare, gray, sandy ground stretched out to the whirlpool, where the water, like foaming mill wheels, whirled round everything that it seized and cast into the fathomless deep. Though the midst of these crushing whirlpools, the little mermaid was obliged to pass to reach the dominions of the sea witch. And also, for a long distance, the only road lay right across a quantity of warm, bubbling mire, called by the witch her turf moor. Beyond this stood her house, in the center of a strange forest, in which all the trees and flowers were polypi, half animals and half plants. They looked like serpents with 100 heads growing out of the ground. The branches were long, slimy arms with fingers like flexible worms, moving limb after limb from the root to the top, all that could be reached in the sea. They seized upon and held fast, so that it never escaped from their clutches. The little mermaid was so alarmed at what she saw that she stood still, and her heart beat with fear, and she was very nearly turning back. But she thought of the prince, and of the human soul for which she longed, and her courage returned. She fastened her long flowing hair round her head so that the polypi might not seize hold of it. She laid her hands together across her bosom, and then darted forward as fish shoots through the water between the supple arms and the fingers of the ugly polypi, which were stretched out on each side of her. She saw that each held in its grasp something it had seized with its numerous little arms, as if they were iron bands. The white skeletons of human beings who had perished at sea had sunk down into the deep waters. Skeletons of land animals, oars, rudders, and chests of ships were lying tightly grasped by their clinging arms. Even the little mermaid, whom they had caught and strangled, and this seemed the most shocking of all to the little princess. She now came to a space of marshy ground in the wood, where large, fat water snakes were rolling in the mire and showing their ugly, drab-colored bodies. In the midst of this spot stood a house, built with the bones of shipwrecked human beings. There sat the sea witch, along, allowing a toad to eat from her mouth, just as people sometimes feed a canary with a piece of sugar. She called the ugly water snakes her little chickens and allowed them to crawl all over her bosom. I know what you want, said the sea witch. It is very stupid of you, but you shall have your way, and it will bring you to sorrow, my pretty princess. You want to get rid of your fish's tail and to have two supports instead of it, like human beings on earth, so that the young prince may fall in love with you, and that you may have an immortal soul. And then the witch laughed so loudly and disgustingly that the toad and the snakes fell to the ground and lay there wriggling about. You are but just in time, said the witch, for after sunrise tomorrow I should not be able to help you till the end of another year. I will prepare a draught for you, which you must with which you must swim to the land tomorrow before sunrise, and sit down on the shore and drink it. Her tail will then disappear and shrink up into what mankind calls legs, and you will feel great pain, as if a sword were passing through you. But all who will see you will say that you are the prettiest little human being they ever will saw. You will still have to be the same floating gracefulness of the movement, and no dancer will ever tread so lightly. But at every step you will take it will feel as if you were treading upon sharp knives, and that the blood must flow. If you bear, if you will bear all this, I will help you. Yes, I will, said the little princess in a trembling voice, as she thought of the prince and the immortal soul. But think again, said the witch, for once your shape has become like a human being, you can no more be a mermaid. You will never return through the water to your sisters or to your father's palace again. And if you do not win the love of the prince, so that he is willing to forget his father and mother for your sake, and to love you with his whole soul, and allow the priest to join your hands that you may be man and wife, then you will never have an immortal soul. The first morning after he marries another, your heart will break, and you will become foam on the crest of the waves. I will do it, said the little mermaid, and she became pale as death. But I must be paid also, said the witch, and it is not a trifle task I ask. It is not it in- and it is not a trifle that I ask. You have the sweetest voice of any who dwell here in the depths of the sea, and you believe that you will be able to charm the prince with it also? But this voice you must give to me. The best thing you possess will I have for the price of my draught. My own blood must be mixed with it, that it may be as sharp as a two-edged sword. But if you take away my voice, said the little mermaid, what is left for me? Your beautiful form, your graceful walk, and your expressive eyes. Surely with these you can enchain a man's heart. Well, have you lost your courage? Put out your little tongue that I may cut it off as payment. Then you shall have the powerful draught. It shall be, said the little mermaid. Then the witch placed her cauldron on the fire to prepare the magic draught. Cleanliness is a good thing, she said, scouring the vessel with snakes, which she had tied together in a large knot. Then she pricked herself in the breast and let the black blood drop into it. The steam that rose formed itself into such horrible shapes that no one could look at them without fear. Every moment the witch threw something else into the vessel, and when it began to boil, the sound was like the weeping of a crocodile. When at last the magic draught was ready, it looked like the clearest water. There it is for you, said the witch. Then she cut off the mermaid's tongue, so that she became dumb and would never again speak or sing. If the polypi should seize hold of you as you return through the wood, said the witch, throw over them a few drops of the potion, and their fingers will be torn into 1,000 pieces. But the little mermaid had no occasion to do this, for the polypi sprang back in terror when they caught sight of the glittering draught, which shone in her hand like a twinkling star. So she passed quickly through the wood and the marsh, and between the rushing whirlpools. She saw that in her father's palace the torches in the ballroom were extinguished, and all within sleep. But she did not venture to go into them, for now she was dumb, and going to leave them forever. She felt as if her heart would break. She stole into the garden, took a flower from the flower beds of each of her sisters, kissed her hand 1,000 times towards the palace, then rose up through the dark blue waters. The sun had not risen when she came in sight of the prince's palace, and approached the beautiful marble steps. But the moon shone clear and bright. Then the little mermaid drank the magic draught, and it seemed as if a two-edged sword went through her delicate body. She fell into a swoon and lay like one dead. When the sun arose and shone over the sea, she recovered and felt a sharp pain. But just before her stood the handsome young prince. He fixed his coal-black eyes upon her so earnestly that she cast down her own, and then became aware that her fish's tail was gone, and that she had as pretty a pair of white legs and tiny feet as any little maiden could have. But she had no clothes, so she wrapped herself in her long thick hair. The prince asked her who she was and where she came from, and she looked at him mildly and sorrowfully with her deep blue eyes, but she could not speak. Every step she took was as the witch had said it would be. She felt as if treading upon the points of needles or sharp knives, but she bore it willingly and stepped as lightly by the prince's side as a soap bubble, so that he and all who saw her wondered at her graceful swaying movements. She was very soon arrayed in costly robes of silk and muslin, and was the most beautiful creature in the palace. But she was dumb, and could neither speak nor sing. Beautiful female slaves dressed in silk and gold stepped forward and sang before the prince and his royal parents. One sang better than all the others, and the prince clapped in his hands and smiled at her. This was great sorrow to the little mermaid. She knew how much more sweetly she herself could sing once, and she thought, "Oh, if he could only know that! I have given away my voice forever to be with him." The slaves next performed some pretty fairy like dances to the sound of beautiful music. Then the little mermaid raised her lovely white arms, stood on the tips of her toes, and glided over the floor and danced as no one yet had been able to dance. At each moment her beauty became more revealed, and her expressive eyes appealed more directly to the heart than the song of the slaves. Everyone was enchanted, especially the prince, who called her his little foundling, and she danced again quite readily to please him, though each time her foot touched the floor it seemed as if she trod on sharp knives. The prince said she should remain with him always. She received permission to sleep at his door on a velvet cushion. He had a page's dress made for her, that she might accompany him on horseback. They rode together through the sweet scented woods, where the green boughs touched their shoulders, and the little birds sang among the fresh leaves. She climbed with the prince to the top of high mountains, and although her tender feet bled so that even her steps were marked, she only laughed and followed him till they could see the clouds beneath them, looking like a flock of birds traveling to distant lands. While at the prince's palace, and when all the household were asleep, she would go and sit on the broad marble steps, for it eased her burning feet to bathe them in cold sea water, and then she thought of all those below in the deep. Once during the night, her sisters came up arm in arm, singing sorrowfully as they floated on the water. She beckoned to them, and they recognized her, and they told her how she had grieved them. After that, they came to the same place every night, and once she saw in the distance her old grandmother, who had not been to the service of the sea for many years, and the old sea king, her father, with his crown on his head. They stretched out their hands towards her, but they did not venture so near the land as her sisters did. As the days passed, she loved the prince more fondly, and he loved her as he would love a little child. But it never came into his head to make her his wife. Yet, unless he married her, she could not receive an immortal soul. And on the morning after his marriage with another, she would dissolve into foam of the sea. Do you not love me the best of them all? The eyes of the little mermaid seemed to say when he took her in his arms and kissed her fair forehead. Yes, you are so dear to me, said the prince, for you have the best heart, and you are the most devoted to me. You are like a young maiden whom I once saw, but whom I shall never meet again. I was in a ship that was wrecked, and the waves cast me ashore near a holy temple, where several young maidens performed the service. The youngest of them found me on the shore and saved my life. I saw her but twice, and she is the only one in the world whom I could love. But you are like her. You could have almost driven her image out of my mind. She belongs to the holy temple, and my good fortune has sent you to me instead of her, and we will never apart. Ah, he knows not that it was I who saved his life, thought the little mermaid. I carried him over to the sea, to the wood where the temple stands. I sat beneath the foam and watched till the human being came to help him. I saw the pretty maiden that he loves better than me. And the mermaid sighed deeply, but she could not shed tears. He says, the maiden belongs to the holy temple, therefore she will never return to the world. They will meet no more. While I am by his side, while I am by his side and see him every day, I will take care of him and love him and give up my life for his sake." Very soon it was said that the prince must marry, and that the beautiful daughter of a neighboring king would be his wife, for a fine ship was being fitted out. Although the prince gave out that he merely intended to pay a visit to the king, it was generally supposed that he really went to see his daughter. A great company were to go with him. The little mermaid smiled and shook her head. She knew the prince's thoughts better than any of the others. "I must travel," he said to her. "I must see this beautiful princess. My parents desire it, but they will not oblige to me to bring her home as my bride. I cannot love her. She is not like the beautiful maiden in the temple whom you resemble. If I were forced to choose a bride, I would rather choose you, my dumb foundling, with those expressive eyes." And he kissed her rosy mouth, played with her long waving hair, and laid his head on her heart while she dreamed of human happiness and an immortal soul. "You are not afraid of the sea, my dumb child," said he, as they stood on the deck of the noble ship which was to carry them to the country of the neighboring king. And then he told her of the storm and of calm, and of strange fishes in the deep beneath them, and of what the divers had seen there. And she smiled at his descriptions, for she knew better than anyone what wonders were at the bottom of the sea. In the moonlight, when all the board were asleep, excepting the man at the helm who was steering, she sat on the deck gazing down through the clear water. She thought she could distinguish his father's castles, and upon it her aged grandmother, with the silver crown on her head, looking through the rushing tide at the keel of the vessel. Then her sisters came up on the waves and gazed at her mournfully. Wringing their white hands, she beckoned to them, and smiled and wanted to tell them how happy and well off she was. But the cabin boy approached, and when her sisters dived down, he thought it was only the foam of the sea which he saw. The next morning the ship sailed into the harbor of a beautiful town belonging to the king whom the prince was going to visit. The church bells were ringing, and from the high towers sounded a flourish of trumpets, and soldiers with flying colors and glittering bayonets lined the rocks through which they passed. Every day was a festival. Balls and entertainments followed one another, but the princess had not yet appeared. People said that she was being brought up and educated in a religious house where she was learning every royal virtue. At last she came. Then the little mermaid, who was very anxious to see whether she was really beautiful, was obliged to acknowledge that she has never seen a more perfect vision of beauty. Her skin was delicately fair, and beneath her long dark eyelashes, her laughing blue eyes shone with truth and purity. "It was you," said the prince, "who saved my life when I lay dead on the beach." And he folded his blushing bride in his arms. "Oh, I am too happy," said he to the little mermaid. "My fondest hopes are all fulfilled. You will rejoice at my happiness, for your devotion to me is great and sincere." The little mermaid kissed his hand and felt as if her heart were already broken. His wedding morning would bring to death to her, and she would change into the foam of the sea. All the church bells rung, and the heralds rode about the town proclaiming the betrothal. Perfumed oil was burning in costly silver lamps on every altar. The priest waved the censers, while the bride and bridegroom joined their hands and received the blessings of the bishop. The little mermaid, dressed in silk and gold, held up the bride's trains, but her ears heard nothing of the festive music, and her eyes saw naught of the holy ceremony. She thought of the night of the death which was coming to her, and of all she had lost in the world. On the same evening, the bride and the bridegroom went on board ship. Cannons were roaring, flags waving, and in the center of the ship a costly tent of purple and gold had been erected. It contained elegant couches for the reception of the bridal pair during the night. The ship, with swelling sails and favorable wind, glided away smoothly and lightly over the calm sea. When it grew dark, a number of colored lamps were lit, and the sailors danced merrily on deck. The little mermaid could not help thinking of her first rising out of the sea, when she had seen similar festivities and joys. And she joined in the dance, poised herself in the air as a swallow when he pursues his prey, and all present cheered her with wonder. She had never danced so elegantly before. Her tender feet felt as if cut with sharp knives, but she cared not for it. A sharper pang had pierced through her heart. She knew this was the last evening she would ever see the prince for whom she had forsaken her kindred and her home. She had given up her beautiful voice and suffered unheard of pain daily for him, while he knew nothing of it. This was the last evening that she would breathe the same air with him, or gaze on the starry sky and the deep sea and the eternal night, without a thought or a dream awaited her. She had no soul, and now she could never win one. All was joy and gaiety on board ship till long after midnight. She laughed and danced with the rest, while the thoughts of death were in her heart. The prince kissed his beautiful bride while she played with his raven hair, till they went arm in arm to rest in the splendid tent. Then all became still on board the ship. The helmsman, alone awake, stood at the helm. The little mermaid leaned her white arms on the edge of the vessel and looked towards the east for the first blush of morning, for the first ray of dawn that would bring her death. She saw her sisters rising out of the flood. They were as pale as herself, but their long, beautiful hair waved no more in the wind and had been cut off. "We had given our hair to the sea witch," said they, "to obtain help for you, that you may not die tonight. She has given us a knife. Here it is. See, it's very sharp. Before the sun rises, you must plunge it into the heart of the prince. When the warm blood falls upon your feet, they will grow together again and form into a fish's tail, and you will be once more a mermaid and return to us to live out your 300 years before you die and change into the salt sea foam. Haste then, he or you must die before sunrise. Our old grandmother moans so for you that her white hair is falling off from sorrow, as ours fell under the witch's scissors. Kill the prince and come back. Hasten. Do you not see the first red streaks in the sky? In a few minutes the sun will rise and you must die." And then they sighed deeply and mournfully and sank down beneath the waves. The little mermaid drew back the crimson curtain of the tent and beheld the fair bride with her head resting on the prince's breast. She bent down and kissed his fair brow, and looked at the sky, which the rosy dawn grew brighter and brighter. Then she glanced at the sharp knife, and again fixed her eyes on the prince, who whispered the name of his bride in his dreams. She was in his thoughts, and the knife trembled in the hand of the little mermaid. Then she flung it away from her into the waves. The water turned red where it fell, and the drops that spurted up looked like blood. She cast one more lingering, half-fainting glance at the prince, and then threw herself from the ship into the sea, and thought her body was dissolving into foam. The sun rose above the waves, and his warm rays fell on the cold foam of the little mermaid, who did not feel as if she were dying. She saw the bright sun, and all around her floated hundreds of transparent, beautiful beings. She could see through them the white sails of the ships and the red clouds in the sky. Their speech was melodious, but too ethereal to be heard by mortal ears. As they were also unseen by mortal eyes, the little mermaid perceived that she had a body like theirs, and that she continued to rise higher and higher out of the foam. "Where am I?" she asked, and her voice sounded ethereal, as the voices of those who were with her. No earthly music could imitate it. "Among the daughters of the air," answered one of them. "A mermaid has not an immortal soul, nor can she obtain one unless she wins the love of a human being. On the power of another hangs her eternal destiny. But the daughters of the air, although they do not possess an immortal soul, can by their good deeds procure one from themselves. We fly to the warm countries and cool the sultry air that destroys mankind with the pestilence. We carry the perfume of the flowers to spread health and restoration. After we have striven for 300 years to all the good in our power, we receive an immortal soul and take part in the happiness of mankind. You, poor little mermaid, have tried with your whole heart to do as we were doing. You have suffered and endured and raised yourself to the spirit world by your good deeds. And now, by striving for 300 years in the same way, you may obtain an immortal soul. The little mermaid lifted her glorified eyes towards the sun and felt them for the first time filling with tears. On the ship which she had left the prince, there were life and noise. She saw him and his beautiful bride searching for her. Sorrowfully, they gazed at the pearly foam, as if they knew she had thrown herself into the waves. Unseen, she kissed the forehead of her bride and fanned the prince, and then mounted with other children of the air to a rosy cloud that floated through the aether. After the 300 years, thus we shall float into the kingdom of heaven, said she, and we may even get there sooner, whispered one of her companions. Unseen we can enter the houses of men, where there are children, and for every day upon which we find a good child, who is the joy of his parents, and deserve their love, our time of probation is shortened. The child does not know when we fly through the room that we smile with joy at his good conduct. For we can count 1 year less of our 300 years. But when we see a naughty or a wicked child, we shed tears of sorrow, and for every tear, a day is added to our time of trial. And so, I believe that that is the end. Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I'm crying. I didn't expect that I was going to cry at this. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't expecting it to cry. They were not lying when they said hmm, that that the Little Mermaid is a queer allegory. Mm-hmm. I particularly like the queer allegory with this specific ending that has them wishing for the immortal soul. Yeah, I think a lot of his stories were sad too. I believe that he also wrote the Emperor's New Clothes. So this is where I got the story from, just so we can get that. I don't know. Can I talk to you guys about my thoughts about this? I didn't realize this would be so emotional. Yeah. And then this is the Aesop's fables that we read earlier. I don't know. I feel like this really is a queer allegory. You want to hear them? Okay, okay. Let's gonna delve in a little bit into religion because I am queer and religious at the same time. So if I know that's like a tough topic for some people, so if that doesn't make you feel comfortable, totes understand. You can, totes understand. Yeah, but like the whole, like it's probably not gonna completely transfer over, but the whole, cause the whole her thing isn't just about wanting to be with the prince. Her thing is also about wanting to have an immortal soul because she was born a mermaid. She was born a mermaid and she has no way of achieving a soul, or she believes, or everybody around her believes that there is no way for a mermaid to achieve an immortal soul, which kind of echoes back into the idea of the somehow yeah, popularly believed idea that a queer person wouldn't that the gates of heaven are not open to a queer person, you know. So and that idea hits home hard as hits home hard as a queer person and a religious person at the same time, because I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen in the afterlife? Am I right, fellas? Yo, maybe I'm screwed. But it's so reassuring to see that the ending of this is like, yo, don't worry, chief. Just do good. Just focus on being a good person. And I think that's really nice and sweet. And I also believe that. I also believe that stuff like that doesn't matter. That, you know, That stuff like that doesn't matter at the end of the day. And that, at the end of the day, just try your darnest to be a good person. And no matter what you are, it'll all be good. Whether you believe in the afterlife or not. You know? It doesn't, yeah. I didn't expect I was going to cry so hard. Oh, this is so stupid. I can't believe I'm crying on stream because of a silly little 100-year-old fairy tale. Yeah. Okay, so the ending I first read was her jumping into the water, turning into foam. I forget when the ending was changed. I'd have to look it up. It was definitely changed because people didn't like and she was reliant on another person to be able to win her soul. Because I think it also kind of makes sense for her to be reliant on, because that's the original popular belief. That was the popular belief. For a mermaid to get her soul, she has to basically be wed to a human. So basically, I guess maybe you could relate it to the queer thought of I need to be accepted by society in order to be considered, in order to I need to pass. I need to pass as this and that, because in queer in like trans people there's term of passing, like passing as a woman, passing as a man, passing as an NB. I need to pass. I need to basically go through their own standards, and yeah, in order so I can be accepted and I can be counted as human too. But at the end of the day, I think the Little Mermaid was more excited about the whole prospect of being about being about having an immortal soul, rather than being a human aspect themselves, because she was more concerned about the whole, rather than being, no, I can never go to the mountains again, I can never see the birds again. Her main concern was, oh, I won't be able to go to the immortal world. So yeah, needed to be accepted by non-queers to be legitimate. I see that. See, yeah. And plus the whole thought of how it needs to be sealed by marriage too, because as queer people, we are blocked. We are currently, whether I like it or not, not um not allowed to religiously be married. Civilly be married nowadays. Yay! Yay! Thank you for all of the hard work. Absolutely. Oh seven to all of the hard work of all of the queer ancestors that we've had before us, for carving out the way, for paving out the way in blood. There you go. Yeah. So the whole idea that that in order for her to be, that her goal is her goal is marriage, but she is being blocked by it because because there was somebody else who he could have been wed to instead. So now what is that? So it doesn't completely line up with one-to-one queer thingy because it doesn't need to. Thank you for the head pats, by the way, Goldie. Chat, that's my bestie. Yeah, you know. Because it doesn't need to line up one-to-one. It's, after all, a person writing their feelings down. So I could definitely see the whole queer writing and reading of this, and the whole wanting to get into heaven despite being queer. So yes. This was a fucking good read. I didn't realize I'd cried this much. I hope you guys like it, and I hope at the end of the day, no matter what you identify as, you remember that you don't need anybody's acceptance to be counted as human, and that whether you believe in an afterlife or not, that I fully believe, just focus on being a good person. Yeah, just you know just focus about being a good person. Don't worry too much about the consequences. Worry about the results of what your actions are doing instead. How can I help people? How can I make people be happy and enjoy your life is the most important part, because even as the Little Mermaid suffered, she had fun. So yeah, I really like this ending. I thought this was gonna be like a sad, like a very very sad ending where she just got swept away, and that she would be, and that's just the ending. That her happiness comes from knowing that she sacrificed herself or something. No, but the fact that she got a new home and a promise to go to the, what do you call this, to go to the, to have an immortal soul. Yeah, that's insane. I love that. Crying. So yeah, how are we doing? Thank you for saying that, Biscuit. Yes, we gotta support each other. Okay, okay, okay. We gotta support each other. Yeah. So I think that is enough time. I think that's all we have for today. I'll send back links to to the fanfics that I gave. Yeah. And I've already sent in the links from earlier. So yeah. These are the two. I'm very glad that you had fun. I'm glad that you guys had fun too. Yeah, it's a good change. Yeah. Who should I send you guys to? I might send you guys to somebody who's doing art because I might send you guys to somebody who's doing art. I'll see. I'll see who. Do you guys have somebody you want me to raid? Yeah. I was remembering another H.C. Anderson story called Shadow about the man who replaced. It was also depressing. My man Hans Christian Andersen was going through the ringer. My man was going through the ringer. Okay. Man's possibly queer, might be even trans with how he wrote The Little Mermaid. I'm gonna be honest with you. Some parts of it I was going, oh, trans allegory, mayhaps. Yeah. So, thank you so much. Who should I send you guys over? I'm gonna go find an art streamer that we can talk to or something. Let's find a new one. Let's go find a new one. Art. I wonder if there's like a mermaid one. So we can talk about the Little Mermaid. No, there's no one who's working on a mermaid one. Let's go to the art tag. Well, the Little Mermaid is ultimately hopeful. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm glad that this ended on a hopeful note because I don't think I would have been able to take it if it didn't end on a hopeful note. Have a good night. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad that you guys stuck through it. You know, I don't normally do ASMR streams, and I don't think I'm really like. I don't really think that I'm. Is it? Is it out of character for me to do ASMR streams? But I had a lot of fun doing some reading. Take care, Z's. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'll send you guys to. Sure, I'll send you guys just. Who should I send you guys? Yeah, chat. Okay, that's the thing. I can't figure out who should I send you guys to. Trying to find somebody. I don't know. I don't watch ASMR, but I enjoy a good story stream. Hell yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, I found somebody. Okay, I found somebody. There you go. I'll send you guys off to a person named A1 Alpha. There we go. Super raid. Maybe in the future we can do this again. It'll probably be more of a sub goal, probably, because I'm not sure if the people want this too much. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Bop, bop, bop. And let's send you guys to A1 Alpha. There we go. Start raid. Ah, bye bye. Ah, bye bye. Ah, bye bye. Ah, bye bye. Mwah, 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 mwah. Mwah. Bye bye, humans.